Ragnarok, an incontrovertibly bitchin word that refers in Norse myth to the final, winner-take-all smackdown between good and evil, is an awfully heavy subtitle for a movie as affably insubstantial as the Mighty Thor's Mighty Thor. Catching us up on what your friendly neighborhood Thunder God and your friendly neighborhood Incredible Hulk were doing while they were absent from last year's Captain America: Civil War. The movie earns the backhanded compliment of being the best Thor picture by an Asgardian mile, and the more sincere one of being not in the least a chore to sit through. It's funnier and prettier than most of the other Marvel movies, having figured out that adopting the visual palette of Frank Frazetti's glossy swords and monsters and muscles fantasy paintings, rather than trying to cross that uncanny valley into photorealism, is a good way to make the wall-to-wall CGI less fatiguing. Half the frames in this film would look like that at home airbrushed on the side of a 1978 Ford Econoline shaggin' wagon van, which would almost certainly be blasting Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song, a vintage headbanger that the Thor 3 soundtrack Ragnarok's twice. I am getting choked up thinking about all the 10-year-olds who will see this thing, and shortly thereafter download their very first Led Zeppelin. As directed by the ingratiating Kiwi comedian Taika Waititi, hear the hilarious 2014 vampire mockumentary, What We Do in the Shadows, as well as last year's charmer Hunt for the Wilder People. Ragnarok is, if anything, too eager to puncture any moment of gaseously/Lieber/Kirby super rhetorical grandiosity with gags and pratfalls. In terms of emotional heft, it makes Spider-Man Homecoming look like cries and whispers. There's just isn't much there here. But lo, what there is really quite agreeable. Chris Hemsworth, the 34-year-old Aussie who hath wielded the hammer for 5 movies now, counting 2 Avengers, has never been better. Neither have his arms. Hemsworth's comic mojo is no joke, especially for a guy whose very name was a punchline not too long ago. He's got scenes opposite Cate Blanchett, Jeff Goldblum, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, Tessa Thompson, Mark Ruffalo, and Waititi himself, as a genial political prisoner alien named Korg, here, among spoilable, Oscar-nominated others. And nobody carries him. He's performing at their level. Hems is worthy. It's no fault of his that I project at least a 40% likelihood that 4 months will now I will have to Google this review before I will be able to answer with any certainty whether I saw Thor Ragnarok. Thy Thoriad has always been the crystal skull kingdom of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Among the MCU's 17 entries left parenthesis. To date, Ragnarok ranks slightly north of middle of the pack. In my unscientific estimation, it's more enjoyable than either of the Guardians of the Galaxies, to which it bears a more than casual visual and tonal resemblance, but not as stirring as any of the Captain's America. But if you are any kind of a nerd at all, you live to argue this stuff, so your mileage will and should vary. Still, one cannot help but be pleased to see that Waititi has thrived within the Marvel factory that proved too confining for Baby Driver Edgar Wright, who was tapped to make Ant-Man, but differed with his bosses creatively, and Wonder Woman chief Amazon Patty Jenkins, who was hired to make the prior Thor but left. prompting Thor's on-screen girlfriend, Natalie Portman, to depart the MCU in solidarity. Perhaps Waititi has been the beneficiary of his forebear's struggles, in the way that younger siblings tend to get an easier ride than the firstborn, which, come to think of it, is the closest thing the Thor films have to a thematic idea. Whatever the reason, the movie is colourful and casual and hunky-dory, in the David Bowie-esque possible sense. What it lacks in urgency, which is a lot, given that the story involves an extinction-level threat to Asgard and all who therein dwell, it makes up for in alacrity. The plot, such as it is, involves two worlds seized by despots. Asgard has been invaded by Hela, Blanchett, the goddess of death, who is Thor and trickster Loki's previously undisclosed big sister. She's so fearsome she shreds Thor's hammer like it was a disintegrating unbagged copy of Journey into Mystery No. 83, August 1962. Before this happens, there's a funny play within the play in Asgard, which is fair compensation for the tedium of the Asgard stuff. I am sorry to tell you that Idris Elba is once again exiled to the dullest part of the movie, in Asgard. Fortunately, Thor is quickly godnapped away by hard-drinking bounty hunter Tessa Thompson to the trash planet of Saka, a Crayola-dressed spin on the Mos Eisley Cantina. This sizable segment of the movie borrows heavily from the decade-old Planet Hulk comic book story. Here Goldblum's Grandmaster is ruler of all he surveys, keeping the bloodlust of T.